So in a traditional therapy session, you'll talk things out, right? So you'll talk things out, you'll you'll get things off your chest, which is really nice. The challenge with it is there's no process in traditional therapies to actually diffuse the emotions behind it. So let's say you're talking about you're frustrated with a mom or a dad or a partner that is critical, which by the way, the reason why it's so important to pay attention to these things is because if you're frustrated with criticism from anyone in your family, every time you embrace it on the outside, you'll get that same hit, same trigger, same emotional impact, right? And I can give you an example like in my own life as well, because I think that's helpful for people to hear who have gone through stuff where I had a sexual experience as a kid with my best friend's dad. So I was about 7 years old, right? And it was interesting because after I had cleared it, the way that I was able to hang out with men of authority had changed. So before that, if there was a male authority figure that even remotely reminded me of this individual, and I started like trembling and I felt like I wanted to cry. Now I can go back and look at that whole situation and I can break it down with someone and it doesn't impact me at all. Also, I was like, you know what? This is the thing that I want to use with my clients to make sure that they're getting to the other side as well.
Quick announcement, I'm launching a new show called The Capital Playbook. It's all about real conversations with top VCs, angels, and capital brokers, how they invest, what they're looking for, and where the smartest deals are happening. If you want to be a guest, pitch your topic at grownlearn.org/guest-form. You can also find the link in the description box below. Let's get into it. I have somebody who's focusing specifically on the business, on the behavioral aspect of business growth. I'm welcoming Carly Pepin to the show. Welcome, Carly.
Thank you so much for having me, Zorina.
Carly, you're a CEO of your own company. You're a consultant for companies ready to, like growth companies ready to exit, looking to grow more. Can you give us the short story of, or the long story, if you want, the human story of your background? What led you to this career?
Yeah, absolutely. I've loved business most of my life. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. I think it was kind of natural. My family had migrated from Italy at a certain point, and then my dad's actually also from Canada. So, when you're immigrants, you usually figure out a way, find a way, and they all had businesses of some sort. So I got to grow up kind of watching people have businesses. It seemed kind of norm. And that seemed to continue on with most of my family. So kind of when the time came to go to college, I was either go to college or my parents also offered to help me start my first business. And that would have been like my college education and my college fund and their perception. And that's what I chose because I was not enjoying school to the same degree as I was working and actually enjoying working. So we did that. And that was really fun. I obviously didn't work out because it's awesome, but first business, I do know now it was marketing and branding would have really pushed us over the edge. And yeah, so that was interesting. We had a lot of the other departments nailed, but that one in particular. So it's kind of been fun learning about business since then and going back and reviewing these different dynamics of the businesses you have and being like, yeah, I missed that. So that's kind of how that got started. The human behavior started a little bit differently. I did disconnect from being an entrepreneur for a little while after just kind of, again, getting lost. And when I did, I decided to move to Australia for a year because I thought that would just solve my problems. And by the time I got there, obviously it does not solve your problems. Just you feel them more because you're less distracted by all the things you're normally distracted by. And I had the opportunity there to actually get introduced to human behavior, found my first coach, and that was life-changing as well. And so after that dynamic, I started to be a business owner again, start my own business, and that's when I became a coach and consultant. Naturally, I resonate with entrepreneurs and business owners. So in the beginning, it was kind of just I was working with whoever kind of I met, came to that dynamic. But then after a certain period of time, having the background that I have, loving business, loving entrepreneurship, and then also the human behavior component. Entrepreneurs love growth. Business owners, you can't like have a business without growing, right? I just started to naturally shift into that. And that's when I started to say, okay, it's time to incorporate business strategy as well. And so it's like the natural evolution from kind of one to the other. And now we combine the two.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
interesting. I mean, it's always a matter of evolution when it comes to startups. I mean, considering my own path, it's you can never really see where it's going. You start with something and it evolves into something completely different, or something
absolutely.
related, but still not what it started from. Um, Carly, what is human behavior? I mean, I know organizational behavior, psychology. What is human behavior
So human
as a subject?
behaviors,
Hmm.
yeah, as a subject, it's basically the core of why we're doing the things that we do. So sometimes we look at things as we look at our behaviors and it's something to change, something we get frustrated with, annoyed with. There's certain behaviors that we wish we have that we feel like we're missing. The truth is, we actually already have all the things that we see on the outside. Every behavior that you admire in someone else, you have inside yourself. You just have it in a different form. Everything that you despise outside in the world, you actually have inside yourself. You have it in your own unique form. The reason why I love the human behavior dynamic is because when we really understand you as a human, why you do exactly what you do uniquely, right? Every person's different. You're going to be able to see those things very, very quickly, right? So if I go look and I see Elon Musk is a great example. He's out there, he's innovative, he's doing things that nobody's ever thought of before, right? And sometimes they have thought of it or they haven't been able to do it, right? And he's out there and that's what he's doing in the world. And so if I have a stay-at-home parent who's judging themselves because they're not doing that and they don't feel like they have that, then if I go look in their life and I say, well, where do you do that? And it's like, well, every day they love their kids, their life purpose is their kids, and that's a big deal. Just it is what it is. Everyone has their own purpose. And so every day I can look and see how they're dedicated to shifting the education, shifting what happens at school, shifting how their kids are, playing sports, shifting this, shifting that, shifting that. And they're doing groundbreaking things in like parenting. Some of my favorite clients are the parents because I'm like, that's a great idea. Never heard that before. That was innovative, and you're like, I'm gonna take that one on for my toolkit in the future. So it's funny, we all have the same thing that we admire on the outside, but we're not seeing it in our own unique form. And the human behavior dynamic is to understand what that is to you, because then it's really cool. You can actually understand not only who you are, but how to maximize your life to the greatest degree. It's interesting as well because in business doesn't just come from you being like, I want to make money. There's a part of you that genuinely wanted to make money, but there's a very specific reason why the business that you chose is structured around the exact topic and the exact subject and the exact thing that you're doing, right? I have a client and it was really cool because he has in the oil industry, right? He's in the oil industry. And at the core of it, when we look at it, of course, he gets in it, he wants to make money, there's an opportunity, and he figured it out. But at the core of what he loves to do, when we got to see it, he actually loves paying first world wages to individuals working in a third world country so they can have a different opportunity in their life, right? So is that about oil? Absolutely not. And so that's actually what drives him, right? The business doesn't drive him. The company doesn't drive him. The thing he's doing doesn't drive him. It's the people and the impact he's making that drive him. And the interesting thing is when we get disconnected from that, we feel burnt out by our business. We feel exhausted. We don't want to engage it anymore. So that's why the human behavior dynamic is so important. It's understanding who you are and how that's infused in life. So you can make sure if you are feeling burnt out, it's like, well, let's find out why. Let's figure out what's going on inside you that you've disconnected from what's important to such a degree that you feel like you're just showing up and having to do day-to-day tasks that you're not interested in, not inspired by.
Mm. Is it, in your experience, is it that they have disconnected because of whatever reasons, or have they maybe never found out in the first place? It had never surfaced what they're actually striving for, below the surface. Maybe they never
Yeah.
recognized the this purpose. Do you call it purpose? Do you call it something else?
Oh, it's great. It's a great question. I call it purpose. It doesn't really have a name. You call it whatever you connect with as well, by the way. I feel like there's a whole new dictionary nowadays in the world. So when I talk to people, I'm like, what do you resonate with? I call it purpose. So, um, so yeah, I will call it purpose. I'll also call it your vision, right? So when we talk about it in that context. So yeah, so some individuals do have a connection to it. And then what winds up happening is, they grow up. Sometimes they connect to it at a very young age, but then they grow up and they disconnect from it. They start to think they need to do things a certain way. They have to be a certain way. They should do things a certain way. I remember working with a young woman. She was about to enter college and she was going to call when we looked and we identified like what was going on with her and what drove her behaviors, what was important to her, what was meaningful and purposeful. And then I found out she was going to school to be in a pharmacy. And everything was about art, design, and people, and connection and community. And we're like, what are you doing? We're like, why are you doing this? And we're like, do you want to do this? Is this something that you're interested in? And she's like, well, it's a good job. And, at the core of it, she was subordinating to what her parents thought she should do, her parents wanted to do. And ironically, like after we sort of did a lot of work and cleared that misperception, she had an inkling of what she wanted and she went back to it. She's actually more of a community builder now, which is kind of cool. And she started her own business. So that's quite inspiring. Still went to college, but didn't do the pharmaceutical component and went for business instead. And now she just applied that to running her own business too, which is pretty cool. So, yes, we can actually have insights and inklings of what we love, but can get lost along the way because we just keep listening to all the outside voices instead of our own. And sometimes we have no idea what we're doing, right? And you'll listen to your intuition and you'll have like this idea of what you would love to do and you just go for it. And that's also amazing. Like it's a great thing to be connected to. I just like to get that extra deep dive detail because that's when you get that really beautiful heart opening, that why, the thing that says, oh, I didn't realize how important this was. This is my mission. This is my purpose. If I just want to figure this out, I don't ever want to give this up, right? And that's something that in general makes you unstoppable in the sense like not as a superhero, but if you're so connected deeply to something that's so important to you, I just know that every day you're going to wake up and you're going to do what it takes to figure out how to get to the other side. No matter how hard things get, no matter how rocky things get, because life is life. Like I want you guys to like focus and connect to those things because those are the things that's going to keep you moving every day, even in the biggest challenges. And again, that's how I'm all describing human behavior. This is you in a nutshell, why you do what you do, why you're driven, what inspires you, what moves you, what gets you to that state where you feel that way. You feel like no matter what's going to go on, you can wake up every day and you can make sure that you're moving into the things that are important to you. You don't have to give up. You don't have to walk away, even if there's a storm.
Mm. So what kind of processes do you use, Carly, to get the people to rediscover themselves?
Yeah, we do a couple different things. So when I'm working with individuals on the human behavior side, I'll dive into, and we also do like business strategy side because I love to work inside and out. It's super important. You can do all the human behavior work that you want, and you could master a lot of things, but if you're not taking action, like what's the point? Like, you're just doing all this work and then you just sit at home and do nothing. There's no point in doing it, right? It's like let's take action afterwards. So what we'll usually do is we'll dive in and I'll try to understand and get really connected with who you are, right? Break through the noise, break through the dynamics, the misunderstandings of basically what you thought you needed, should, have to do, and get to the core of what you really love, who you want to be, what you want to become. I had a great session with a client the other day, very frustrated, but she was very frustrated and it very blocked in the moment, right? Because there was so much subordination to what the shoulds and have tos and need to like was. And at the end of the session, it's like she just finally like let go. Like she raised her voice, started yelling, tearing up, and said, I just want to. And she just kept going, 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 right? And it was amazing because, it brought me a tear of inspiration because her vision came out and it was giving herself permission to not follow someone else's rules, not have to take care of everyone else, to start to focus and connect with what's important to her, right? So whatever it is that's blocking you, I want to go in, I figure out what that is. We get more connected to that vision. And now that, that person is connected, it's all right, next steps, right? It's like, let's see whatever fears, concerns, anything strategic inside, outside that is in the way of you getting there, which some of the things are going to be internal components. Like I said, there's going to be some fears, there's going to be some misperceptions about yourself. You're going to have self-doubt. So we do all those different dynamics. We work on those things. And simultaneously, it's like, let's also put together a strategy to get you there. Like, what are the action steps? How do we break this down, And so, especially in a business, right? So and she's actually a business owner. So we're pulling her vision out. And so now that vision is pulled out, it's going to take a lot of time also step by step on the outside to put that together. What is the strategy? How are we going to execute it? What kind of people are you going to put in place to help you, right? Who are those people? How do you manage those people? And then anything that comes along the way as you start to do those various things, because, that's part of running a business. It can be quite challenging, frustrating, and making sure that along the way she's not feeling so frustrated, so overwhelmed, so burnt out that she just wants to give up, right? It's like, so how do we continue to do and utilize the human behavior dynamics so that you wake up feeling energized and inspired by things that are quite challenging? Yeah. So those
Mhm.
are next steps. That's one example. Yeah.
How is this different from psychology? It seems like
Mhm.
psychology work partially plus strategy. Is there
Yeah.
any difference?
Yeah, so psychology work, what will often happen in a traditional like therapy session. So in a traditional therapy session, you'll talk things out, right? So you'll talk things out, you'll you'll get things off your chest, which is really nice because sometimes people really want to feel heard, they want to feel understood, and they want to be able to speak about these things that they normally don't speak about. So I find that that's been very helpful some people. The challenge with it is there's no process in traditional therapies to actually to fuse the emotions behind it. So let's say you're talking about you're frustrated with a mom or a dad or a partner that is critical, which by the way, the reason why it's so important to pay attention to these things is because if you're frustrated with criticism from anyone in your family, every time you embrace it on the outside, you'll get that same hit, same trigger, same emotional impact, right? So we want to work we work on the core and then it snowballs into the rest of your life. So if
Mhm.
you're getting criticized in that same way, it's just like, oh, whatever. It's like no sweat off my back, right? Like that's what we want to get to. So traditional therapy will talk about it, but then if it happens again, you're still upset, you're still triggered, you're still almost a victim of it, right? And so we want to get out of the state of being a victim of it, and we want to ask these quality questions to diffuse the emotion. So in these particular cases, to diffuse an emotion, this is the interesting dynamic. And let's say, for example, like if I talk to a business owner that really loves business, right? I'm going to sit there and I'm going to be like, well, it sounds like this situation at work was really frustrating, but I can see how you understand how it served your company and how it served you. And they can see, no matter how challenging that experience was, how it's helped their business get to the other side. And so if I ask them if they would go through it again, they're like, for sure, because it was like really helpful. If I ask someone who's really has a meaningful like relationship as a mom or a dad, and that's most meaningful to them, I'll say, hey, you just went through chaos with your kid, right? And I'm like, well, would you go through that again? And they're like, well, absolutely, because even though it was chaotic and it was hard and it was challenging, I see this came out of it, XYZ. So if you're having a situation, I just use criticism as an example because it's usually something people have a high trigger with. So if someone comes up and let's say mom or dad or your coworker is very critical of you and just beating you down and being mean and all this stuff, right? And I say, well, do you want to go through that again? No, that person's a narcissist. I'm going to avoid those types of people. I don't keep those kind of people in my life. It's bad energy, it's negative energy, right? You'll never get rid of a critical person. You can't even get rid of criticism within yourself. You're either criticizing people on the outside or you're criticizing the inside, right? We're critical by nature. And so instead of thinking that you can get rid of it and every time reacting to it, it's like, how can you apply that same perception that you had on these other things that technically some of them were more challenging than being criticized, but you have a different perception? Well, the thing is that's when we start to ask the quality questions. It's like, how did this actually serve you? How did this help you? How did this very specific challenge that you went through help you to get all the things that you have today? How did it help you to understand yourself more? How does it help others when they experience? Until all of a sudden, when you ask those questions, you're like, wow, this isn't in the way to like my inspired life. This was on the way to me having my inspired life. And when you shift that dynamic of that question, you could sit and have the same exact experience and have no reaction to it at all, right? It doesn't even impact you. The funny thing is, and my clients and I have a laugh about this, is they'll be like, it happened again, but I didn't even notice it. They're like, the thing that I labeled as critical before or frustrating before was actually just a normal part of the conversation. It was just my perception had skewed it so far one way that I wasn't able to see like nothing's happening, nothing's wrong, everything's fine. And so this is kind of the cool dynamic when we think about shifting the mindset. You want to find out where there's a perceptual imbalance, right? And I kind of give you one example. There's a lot of different ways to find the perceptual imbalance. It's fun. It's like almost like a little puzzle piece you got to figure out. It's very cool. But when you get the various details, it's like, how do we put that perception back into balance so something doesn't become something you have to avoid all the time, but just a natural part of your life? Because no one's been able to get rid of anything on this planet. And so, if that's the case, it's like, how do we prepare you for the reality of what's to come, especially as a business owner? The bigger that your business is going to get, the bigger your challenges are going to get as well. So if you're running from them and hiding from them, I know you're not going to be able to build the vision inside your head. So it's like, how do I help you on a regular basis to have that feel like a more natural part of your daily life, build more resilience, and actually like love facing those challenges instead of feeling like you need to run or hide or overwhelmed and beaten up by them.
Mhm. I did a intuitive business coaching or something like that last year with a lady. I have I have coached people myself for my Heal and Learn platform, but I thought, they say you need to get coached as well. So I thought I'd give it a try. And one of the most useful things that I remember from this coaching series, because it was like 6 months long or something. So there are a few very memorable things out of this experience, and one of them was the secondary benefit. And I think this is what you're talking about when you're referring to a negative emotion that you're experiencing, but that is bringing you some benefit, and that's why you're not getting rid of this emotion, right? So the question then becomes, how can you still achieve the same thing without experiencing this negative emotion? So replacing it with a different emotion or a different
Yeah.
outlook. Yeah.
Yeah, and we want to try to get to that point of having gratitude. And it's funny you say that because we do make that choice, by the way. There's individuals out there that choose to view more shame in themselves and perceive they have shame. But the crazy thing is you can't not have both sides. So to the degree that you have shame, you also have pride, but you're only
Uh,
noticing the
yeah.
shame because that serves you in some way, shape, or form. And some people only notice the pride and
Mm,
they just pretend they don't have shame and because that serves them. But the reality is we're human.
yeah.
Every person is human and we have both like pride and shame. So it's kind of cool because this is part of the human behavior dynamic as well. That's why I say when you understand like what you're doing and what you love, like you'll see that people maybe latch onto pride or latch onto shame because it's getting them the very connection to the end goal, which is your unique purpose, your values. You get to do what you want because you have basically taken this on. And so we have a good laugh with clients and stuff because I'm like, okay, this really isn't impacting you. This isn't like a behavior that's like actually impacting you. It's not impacting anyone else. Like, do we really need to sit here and spend all this money trying to get rid of it? Or are you cool? And they're like, now that I see I'm fine. And sometimes it'll be like, okay, this one's really impacting you. Like it's really impacting your relationships. It might be impacting your finances. And I'm like, let's re-strategize. We know what you're getting out of it. We know why you're doing it. Let's help you find another way to get it that maybe won't impact business and relationships and all this different dynamic as well. So it becomes a bit more it just becomes more fun, you know? Like personal development doesn't have to be an awful thing. Like we get to laugh at ourselves, we get to giggle at who we are as people and how strategic we are, by the way. We are so strategic. And the more that you get to see it and understand it, the more you get to have fun with yourself and how you're showing up, which is pretty enjoyable, you know? It's a nice connection.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Indeed, I can see how this can shift a lot of things. Well, what are some of the transformations that you've seen in your clients? Like what happens in their lives? Do you actually
Yeah.
see immediate results in their business growth?
Yeah, so definitely in business growth and definitely just in their own personal growth and sometimes it's health and wellness as well. And yeah, so like really beautiful examples of just working with someone who was really struggling with a transition that after they had lost a family member, right? And so when we were working on that dynamic, as soon as that shifted, all of a sudden, like they were able to engage in their business. It was just really just guilt and shame for what they perceived they had or had not done before that person had passed away. So once we cleared those dynamics, it actually gave them permission to open up and build their business again, you know? I had a client who I had the opportunity to help felt really disconnected from their vision, right? They knew that this was a great example of someone who knows they love their business, knows they love the work they do, but couldn't figure out why. And
Mhm.
they just really felt like a void and a disconnect because they knew they wanted to build it, but they didn't have that gusto to get there because they could feel it. They didn't have the big enough why. So we really just looked back at their life, what they were doing, what they went through, and what they were creating in the company. And that one really, he's done really well since then. So he's been able to multiply it by like six, right? Six times valuation after figuring that out and getting that. And he's still going, right? So that one's really, really inspiring. There was another individual and he was really struggling with relationships, right? So he's really struggling with relationships and that dynamic. That one in particular, it was more helping him transition out of a relationship. And actually, after he transitioned out of that relationship, he was able to move forward in the business because it was just taking up all his time, all his energy, right? So it's really interesting to see like what you give yourself permission to do when you're clearing your pride, your shame, your guilt, your fears, you know, even your fantasies that you have. You know, sometimes we have unrealistic expectations on fantasies on what life should turn out look like, what the world should look like. And when you really give yourself permission to clear it, you give yourself permission to do what you would love. I remember I had a client who came to me, this was really funny. He wanted to work on relationships. Still haven't worked on relationships, by the way. We started after the first session, I just looked at him and I was like, are you sure this is what you want? I know you hired me for this, but like, I'm not really feeling that you really care about this. And he's like, no, I just thought I should. And I was like, what do you want to work on? He's like, I want to work on my business. I want to work on my mission. I want to build this. And I was like, why don't we just focus on that? And so it's ironic because one of them was just giving him permission to not, again, subordinate to the family's idea of now it's time to have kids. Now it's time to get married. Now it's time to settle down. And he still hasn't. I don't actually know if and when he will. Like it's just not aligned. And again, it's not a good or bad thing, but it's giving himself permission to launch in the way that's most inspiring to him, right? And so it's cool. Like the work works when you work it. That's the truth. Is anything that really has like a great depth and an impact. And I know people when they hear this, they'll think of things that they've done. When you work it, it actually works. So it's just a matter of investing your time and energy in it to be able to have those transformations in your life as well.
Mhm. Is this a
Mm.
long process? How long does it take to get rewired and get your ducks straight in a row?
Yeah, it really depends on the level of perceived challenge that something has hit for you, right? Like I've had individuals that have gotten through things in like surprisingly to me where it's like we just got through it in an hour and you're like, whoa, that was fast, right? Like I usually think it's going to take longer. And then there are other things that I would think would be quicker that take like a whole package or sometimes longer because I was like, oh, I did not realize how deeply rooted this was, right? And so it really just depends on the person. Whenever I'm focused on sessions with someone, I love to do packs of 12 because then I can guarantee that we can get a significant quantity of work done on the main issue and we get that transformation they want. They have enough to move forward. They have enough to move on to the next level. If they want to do more work, we can do more work because, there's usually always like deeper you can go. And so unless it's extreme trauma, then genuinely, like I have someone right now where it's like we're dealing with extreme trauma, and that's definitely going to take more than 12 sessions. I think if we have between 24 to 36, we'll really nip it in the butt to such a degree like it's not gonna like impact her, which would be amazing. But it's just how much time do you want to invest? Because I think, and this is something for people to reflect on too, you're gonna feel better, right? Like when people do a good job, you'll feel better. And I genuinely would love for people to work with me longer because when you feel better, and I know you feel better the next session, sometimes you're like, I feel good enough. And I'll listen and I'm like, oh, there's just more we can do. And I know we can get deeper, and you have no idea, like, if I cleared it fully, like what you can get out of life. And you do your best to try to help people to actually like get that level of depth. But people just they like to feel better. So for those of individuals out there that really want to challenge themselves to like get the fullest, like, and you have a coach, whether it be me or anyone else, like go as deep as you possibly can. Like if you feel like you're almost there and just better, but maybe there's a little bit more, keep going until like everything's gone. I have
Hmm.
some clients who do that and they have amazing transformations in their life, like amazing. And then there's some who are just like they just want to feel good enough. And it's actually surprising how fast like you can help someone feel good enough. And you're like, man, like I wish I had a little more time with you. Yeah.
You mentioned trauma clearing, and I know that there are many methods. Some of them are clinical
Mhm.
psychology, some of them are energy healing methods, some of them are rapid transformational hypnotherapy and other reprogramming techniques where you actually go in meditation and deep meditation and you reprogram the past. So what methods do you use? Is it a conversation or do you go
Mhm.
like in a soft meditation? How do the sessions go?
Yeah, so definitely I would say I connect with a person and it depends on first I want to really connect with the person because everyone's really different. So part of again, especially when there's trauma in these longer sessions, it's understanding who you are, how you communicate and what you react and respond to because based on what you've been through, Like I may have a tone of voice at a certain time that triggers something inside you. So part of me is also, this is why I like finding out the purpose and all these different dynamics is I want to get to know you a little bit, right? So that's part of it. And it doesn't take long. It usually takes like a session or two and you just get to know someone while being able to work on the dynamics. So it's really connecting with you, how you work, how you process, and that'll be incorporated into the method that I use the most. So I love using the DeMartini method. And so that's by Dr. John DeMartini. And that one gave me the transformation from my own trauma. And so that is why I signed up, you know. So I had actually like gone to a workshop. I regressed something and I completely forgot about it. So I didn't work on it at his first workshop, but I had a great result. It was really cool. But then at home, when I had finally remembered a trauma that I had repressed, I did it at home. And again, it was just like, whoa, like the change in my life was just phenomenal. And I went to another workshop and I was like, you sign me up. I was like, I want to teach this stuff. Sign me up. I'm ready. So basically what it does is it just neutralizes like the trauma completely in its entirety. And I can give you an example like in my own life as well, because I think that's helpful for people to hear who have gone through stuff where I had a sexual experience as a kid with my best friend's dad. So I was about 7 years old, right? And it was interesting because after I had cleared it, the way that I was able to hang out with men of authority had changed. So before that, if there was a male authority figure that even remotely reminded me of this individual, right? So it was any distinguishing feature, hair, eye color, height, right? Build, the clothes that they were wearing at the time, that triggers that inside of you. And what would happen is like, I remember one of my mentors, I would try to talk to him, and every time I tried to talk, my voice got really quiet and I started like trembling and I felt like I wanted to cry. Right. And there was another one that I had another mentor, and every time I was alone in the room, like I started again breaking down and my body started shaking and I was starting to cry. And this is in my 30s. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like in my 30s and I'm freaking out. And I was like, I didn't know what was happening. And I had repressed it. Fortunately, it just popped up later. I had a friend, a very trustworthy friend, who had done a regression on me and we got the memory. And then I remembered that this method, if I applied it, could clear it completely. So after I did it, I was able to be alone in the room. I still am to this day with like those mentors, and I'm completely fine. Like, no more shaking, no more trauma, no more voice changing. I can hang out with them, I can be with them. They now feel like friends and equals. And those were two really big shifts that I saw that were really obvious. But even the underlying anxiety and not being so fearful of like basically powerful men in my perception was a huge change, which is not great, when you're working business to business and in corporate and stuff, to be afraid of your clients in a sense, men in empowered positions. That's who I was afraid of, and that's who I work with, ironically. So that was like a huge transformation. And that's when I decided to just sign up for that one. It's very thorough. And so, like I said, we're going through and we're shifting the perception. We're finding out where the balance is off in the mind. And he has like 40 different columns. Yeah, there's like 40 different columns that you can utilize to like ask these quality questions to ensure that we're getting the perceptions, the mind in balance. And once it's in balance, the trauma is gone and the trauma dissipates and it turns it into an event. And not just an event that you went through, but something that you're actually grateful for. And sometimes it's hard to explain, which is funny because it's like, how can you be grateful for something like that? And it's like, well, if you just go through the process, I'll show. And you're like, don't worry, I'll show you. We got this. And I usually tell someone that. I'm like, I promise you'll get it, but let me just like get started,
Mhm.
because it's definitely
Do you use the
possible. Yeah.
methodology where you're grateful for the learning and for the empowering aspect of it? That you
No, the actual experience of it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And because sometimes it's not just like, even in my case, it wasn't even the learning that I got, but the physical experience is very intense. So, anyone who's gone through something like that, you're going to have physical pain, you have fear, you might have shaking or trembling in your body, usually at that age or in those experiences, you're not usually in control, right? So, someone's usually holding you down or there's pressure or something like that. You become grateful for all of those different things. He's really done well in that dynamic. He's really created something. It'll definitely stand the test of time in that sense. But like now I can go back and look at that whole situation and I can break it down with someone and it doesn't impact me at all. I'll get grateful again if I talk about it a lot, and you'll see me tear up because I really am grateful for it. I've done really deep, diligent work on this using that methodology. And that's when I encounter trauma. That's what I use today. It's genuinely 100%. I'm going to use it. We're going to dive in and we're going to go for it because that's the thing that it was the only thing that got me out of my own trauma. And so I was like, you know what? This is the thing. This is the thing that I want to use with my clients to make sure that they're getting to the other side as well. So it's like, no matter what you go through, we can create gratitude for it. Is it work? Absolutely. But usually the people who are willing to do the work are the ones who, like me, had that physical, visceral experience that have been impacting them for so long that they're just like, I don't want to deal with this anymore, you know? So that's usually the kind of people I'll get, the ones who are like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'll do the hard work. I'll go in, I'll dive deep, I'll ask myself the tough questions, get this out of my body, and I'm like, done. Let's go. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Carly, I'm gonna ask you a question. I
Mhm.
hope you don't perceive it as disrespectful or something, but
No, not at all.
uh, um, because as you were speaking about this experience, I'm recalling a few sessions. I used to lead the Heal and Learn method sessions on my Heal and Learn platform, and I've had situations where women were recalling indeed similar experiences, and we've cleared them and the trauma related to that. Uh, but I've always asked myself afterwards, because of uh, let's say not active regressions, but people regress back to previous lives sometimes. And I've always asked myself whether the mind, because it's so creative, doesn't conjure up these things to solve a certain problem that it's dealing with at the moment.
Yeah.
And the mind is so creative that it can shape an entire
Yes.
lifetime. So
Yes.
when you said you rediscovered this or you uncovered that this happened to you, have you ever verified it? Not to, I hope I'm not
Oh,
insulting
this
you with
one?
this question.
No, yes, not at all. I actually, because I remember this is a great question, by the way, and I'm so glad you asked me this because this does happen. 100%. This genuinely happens. And I remember after I had done it, I talked to John DeMartini's the guy. So his daughter is a really close friend of mine. So I talked to his daughter and I was like, girl, I gotta ask you a question. I was like, because I'm very aware people make stuff up. And I was like, I don't want to like sit here and think like I made this up. I was like, so what are the signs of awareness for me to understand if like it was real? Because I got all these like things on the outside and all this life change. I was like, but I still doubt myself because I had blocked it out for like how many years? 2 years. That's a long time, right? So it's a great question. And so she's like, okay, so when you went through the process, tell me what was happening as you were going through it. Now, here's the kicker. And this I see with my clients as well, too. And it's really a great thing to note because anyone who's working with anyone, if you're not getting, if you know that you can get a transformation where people can get tears of gratitude or inspiration for what they're going through and they're not getting it, something is wrong. There's a lie in there and you can catch it. So when I was going through the process, as I was going through it, was just gushing, like gushing tears. Like I remember thinking, and it was like tears of inspiration, not of pain. Like I would get an insight and then I would just burst into tears and I would start crying and I would feel my heart open, right? And so those are the signs that we know that something is accurate because I've done this before. I was working with someone and I was like, something seems off. Like I keep asking them questions and I'm like, I feel like the data's off, or maybe I'm not getting like the right thing, or maybe they're lying about this, but like something's off in this moment. And the more that I dug and dug, I was like, I'm not getting the tears. And I would keep asking the questions. And this is the thing that I love about the method too. You keep asking the questions, you keep refining it, because as you refine it, it's like if they're not getting a tear, then I'm not connected to the right thing. And so I keep asking questions to get to the right thing. And then all of a sudden we realize it's like, oh, I made this up. And it's like, great. Okay. So part of the method as well is what's helpful if you're not getting the tears. There's a series of, I mean, we're trained in a specific way to continue to ask questions and dive deeper and dig in to find out exactly what would get you that heart opening, what we're missing. But in that, it just gets so in depth and so deep that if someone's lying, you find out really quickly, like really
Mhm.
quickly. But that is a great question because we do actually have circumstances and situations where sometimes we make it up for protection. But I even had a client one time. and I wouldn't work on this with her because it wound up not being real. But she came to me and she goes, I think I've been raped because in my family, this individual has touched everyone else. And one time I remember being under the table and he touched my arm. And I was like, that does not mean you've been raped. And she's like, but I show signs of being raped and all these things. And I was like, that does not mean you've been raped. And ironically, like we did a lot of other work together and actually saw like nothing happen to her. So you are absolutely right. Sometimes it's also pushed on us by the outside world and the perceptions. And this is part of really knowing yourself and getting to know who you are so that even the outside world doesn't impact you and you don't make up a story about yourself because that impacts like how you live your life, how you live in the world.
Mm.
It's a great
Yeah, I
question.
mean, the people I've worked with have also
Yeah.
gone through some significant crying, but my perception is that once
Mhm.
you, I'm using a different method, but once you enter in this state of mind, you're actually embodying the situation that
Mhm.
you're seeing. So you're seeing it so vividly as if you're reliving it. And
Yes.
but then there's the other aspect. Does it make a difference if it works? So does it make a difference if it actually happened or if it didn't happen? If the
Mhm.
result, which is solving your problem right now,
Yeah.
works.
You won't get the result. Like you just won't get a result because we're not really clearing anything. It's just basically like you're listening to a cool audiobook about someone else's story, because that's not the thing that's actually impacting you. And so you won't even get the result. Like I got in a fight with a client what was it last week? It was yeah, it was last week. They got really mad at me. But I was really pushing them because they were lying to me on the phone and I just kept pushing them and they were getting really frustrated, but ironically, it was a moment they were lying to themselves, right? And it's like, so it took me 45 minutes of me really pissing this person off. And they were saying, you're really pissing me off. And I was like, yes, but simultaneously, this is not it. I'm telling you, this is not it. Like we're missing something. And I said, so keep going, keep going. And then at the end of it, it's like, I just was trying to work on this because I thought I needed to and I had to. And she's like, you're right. I don't even want to. It doesn't even bother me that much. I'm just doing it because of this. I was like, what the fuck do you want to work on? And at the end of it, we actually got to the thing and I was like, great, that's our main focus. Can we agree on that? That if this comes up again, I'm gonna get in, I'm gonna railroad you, and we're just gonna focus on that. And they're like, yes, fine. So there is this dynamic where it's like we are going to come in, we are going to lie, but there's this real truth that you can find where and the reason why I knew that she was lying is because I kept doing the work and I wasn't feeling that emotional shift. I wasn't feeling gratitude. There's a client that I'm working with right now who's been through extreme trauma. So her son passed away. There was a suicide dynamic and she witnessed it. It was intense, right? So when I'm going into those experiences and I'm working on it with her, I keep asking her, is that feeling a little better? A little better, a little better, a little better. What part of it's feeling better? At the end of the consult, I say, which part feels better? Great. Which part is still remaining? Great. And so if there's nothing that felt better, like with that other client, I'm like, I know this stuff works, which means we're not focused on the right thing or you're lying to me, right? Where this other person, it's like they can go through a trauma like that and they're feeling better at the end. We still have more pieces to work through, but I'm getting that feedback. And so that's it. It's also that feedback in you too, because I actually love that feedback when clients have that in themselves as well, because they feel frustrated, by the way. I don't ever get upset when clients get upset on phone calls. I don't need them to be a certain way. Even that internal frustration they get, right? Because even them, it's like there's an internal frustration that they have where, like, why are you frustrated? Like sometimes they come to me to the table with something and then they're frustrated about what we're working on. It's like, well, what are you frustrated about right now? Be annoyed with me, share with me what's actually going on. And then they go through it only to process it themselves and be like, this is not what I want to work on. I'm actually lying to myself. And they get the aha and they get the insight. So it's actually like our emotions that give us the response and the reality of, are we actually focused on the real thing? Are we lying to ourselves? Are we lying to these other people? Right. And as coaches, it's our job to get better and better and better at catching it. So if you're not feeling better, if you're not feeling a relief, if you're not feeling more grateful, because again, it's not going to happen in an hour, but step by step, if you're not feeling that, it's like, then what are we missing? Like, what's actually going on? And are we even focused on the right thing? It's a great reflection, not just for others, but also for you as an individual. Mm.
Fantastic. Carly, how can people get a hold of you and What kind of sessions do you
Yeah.
offer, like trial sessions or introductory or something like that?
Yeah, so westcoastgrowthadvisors.com, and then they can just connect with me directly there. And just as a beginning introduction, basically what we'll do is we'll kind of just hop on the phone. I don't do any work on the initial phone call. That's more of like, let's see if we actually want to work together, dive deeper, answer any questions you have. But it's really a solid data gathering opportunity for me to like figure out exactly what's going on in your life, if I can help you. And again, if I can't and I'm actually not the best person for you, and maybe I'm not your niche or something, I have a really beautiful team of individuals as well that, yeah, have very specific niches and stuff that I transfer to as well. Yeah.
Tell us about your team as
Yeah.
well. What kind of niches do they cover?
So my team, I consider my friends, right? So it's my friends and my colleagues that I've connected with, but like one of my really close friends, she covers she works with elite hockey players that want to go pro, right? She mainly focuses on females. So it's cool. It's cool stuff like that. And some of them are specifically around, like one of them specifically is focused on musicians, right? Who actually want to be in like the Philharmonic or something like that. Like there's so many people out there in the world. And if someone calls me, I'll still have like the call and stuff. And then I'm like, this is the best person for you to talk to. Yeah. And I'm like, I love you. And let me just pass you on to this perfect person. But mainly my focus is when I'm working with people with human behavior is, business owners, entrepreneurs, and leadership as well. So leadership and leadership teams and stuff, or individuals who are looking to go that way. That's basically my niche when I think about it. Yeah.
Mhm.
But again, if I don't have it, I usually have connections with a lot of other people. Yeah.
Great. Carly
Yep.
Pepin, thank you so much. Very interesting conversation and
Yeah.
wishing you good luck and fantastic clients.
Thank you too.
Thank you for listening to Grow and Learn. We hope that you found our podcast informative, engaging, and inspiring. Our mission is to help you keep growing and learning, and we hope that our conversations and insights have provided you with practical advice and useful perspectives. If you're looking for personalized support and guidance to help you achieve your personal or professional growth objectives, I offer a range of services to help. As a trusted management partner and mentor, I work with businesses in the process of transformation, looking for new streams of business as well as M&A. With an extensive professional network of experts and mentors, I can bring on board the right person or team based on the specific needs of the company I'm working with. To learn more about the services I offer and how I can help you achieve your goals, visit my website at grownlearn.org. You can also reach out to me via email or social media. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this episode of Grow and Learn, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and it helps us to continue to create content that is relevant and valuable to our listeners. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights and perspectives with you in the future.